maybe share with us how that's shown up in your professional life?
Yeah, it first started to become clear to me that rejection was an issue for me in my professional life when I had started my own law practice. And the pain of hearing a client say no to working with me was so intense that I almost considered not being in business for myself, because it brought up all of the feelings of rejection that I had experienced my entire life, but probably hadn't dealt with. I've probably spent much of my life before learning how to deal with rejection by running from it in various ways that were hidden to me. And so now I'm in my own law practice. I'm the breadwinner in my family. I have a 4-year-old and a baby, and my husband is staying at home with the kids. It's make it or break it, sink or swim. And clients are coming in to meet with me. I know they need my services, and they're leaving without writing me a check. And it was just painful at so many levels that I had to learn to face it and deal with it in a new way.
So I've never put the two together, like especially as an entrepreneur. An entrepreneur is, as you said, a very lonely life. It's a very lonely endeavor. And to factor in rejection into it is fascinating. Well,
it's funny because I imagine that many of us actually become entrepreneurs as a result of rejection to some degree. Like, another definition for entrepreneur is unemployable. And so why am I unemployable? Well, I might be unemployable because of how I've dealt with rejection, or because of because of feeling rejected. And so I do think that they go hand in hand, and I don't know this for sure, but my guess would be that the best entrepreneurs, the ones who truly create success in their lives, are those who have learned to handle rejection in a completely empowered manner.
So would you agree that rejection is a form of motivation, right?
If we choose it. If we choose rejection to be a form of motivation, it can be. I don't think that the vast majority of people do. I think what the vast majority of people do is what I did for the first third of my life, which is to preemptively reject. So if I think somebody's going to reject me or something's going to reject me, well, I'm going to reject it first. I'm going to find a reason to not want it. I think that's the way that most people deal with rejection, is to turn off the desire for that which seems to not want me.
So I want to switch gears real quick. There's a lot of talk about glass ceilings in corporate America and whatnot. Do you feel like you're immune to glass ceilings as a female entrepreneur, or is there another form of a glass ceiling?
I'm aware of where it is more challenging for me to achieve certain heights of success. For about 10 years, I was always able to get to $1.5 million a year in revenue. And that's great. It's a great place to be, but stuck is stuck is stuck. So whether you're stuck at $50,000 or $500,000 or $5 million or $50 million, if you're stuck, you're stuck. And I was stuck at $1.5 million. Over the past 2 years, we broke through, and this year we'll do somewhere between $3.5 to $4 million in revenue. Why? What made the biggest difference in our ability to break through? And it was that I grew. I grew in my leadership capacity. I grew in my willingness to meet the emotions of my team members in a new way, to meet my own emotions. I turned toward that which was really challenging for me, and I committed 100% to giving this business, the business is called New Law Business Model. We train lawyers on a new law business model that I created when I was in private practice. And for years, I had been running away from that business with some belief in mind that I was meant to do something more than just serve lawyers, or that somehow it wasn't good enough. So I would have, all these other things going on. I would have other businesses that I was doing, but over the past 3 years, I decided to turn and face it, to give it everything I had, 100%, to build a team, and to keep looking at how I could get more and more out of the way while still showing up fully. So this very interesting balance of full responsibility and also letting go to make space for others. And I learned how to do it. And so today, the company is able to thrive and serve our clients in truly deep, meaningful way, far better than it ever has before. I can see that it could actually now live without me, but that it doesn't have to. Right? There's no more running from it. I'm able to show up and do my highest and best work in service to it, and I've also been able to attract in the highest caliber team members that I've ever had the benefit of working with before, and relax into letting them do what they're here to do without abdicating my responsibility or leadership, but making space for theirs.
So if there were, a few words or maybe a sentence or two to describe the culture that you're cultivating in your company, what would it be? Integrity,
alignment, full personal responsibility, and leadership. Like real leadership, like really knowing what leadership means, because I spent 40 years of my life not knowing what leadership meant.
So what does leadership mean to you?
To me, leadership means showing up for everything that comes our way with equanimity, ease, grace, being who we want to see in the world.
So, differentiator. So you're top of your class in Georgetown law, lawyer, obviously. What makes you different?
Different from?
From your competition, from other people in your field.
Oh. I would say that what makes me different from other lawyers, we'll start with that, is that I have integrated my masculine and my feminine parts. I have cultivated both my right brain and my left brain equally. So I'm able to bring a huge amount of creativity into the legal field, which is very rare, I would say, for most lawyers who are highly left brain, logical, risk averse. And here I am, I'm bringing, the feminine really into this very masculine industry. And I've had to cultivate that. I did not have a relationship with my feminine at all for most of my life. It wasn't until I was 31 that I even began to have any concept of what that meant. So for the first third of my life, I was very connected to, my competitive drive, my ambition, my force, my will, and completely cut off from the neck down. I lived in my mind almost entirely, and then after my dad died, I had an opportunity to really turn towards the feminine, which I had spent my whole life rejecting. Out of a line, I wanted to be my dad's, I was very connected with my dad. I was a daddy's girl, and he rejected the feminine. So I rejected the feminine in order to be in alignment with him. And then when he died, it made space for me to turn to face my feminine. And, life really delivered the perfect experience for me to do that in a way I wouldn't have expected. And because I turned toward that which I had been rejecting through an experience of seeing something I really wanted that seemed to be rejecting me and handling it in a new way, I was able to discover this feminine part, discover this creative part, reconnect with my body and my heart, ultimately my soul.
So would you say the majority of your clients are female, or do you serve both?
I serve both.
Yeah.
So in the business that serves lawyers, we have an even number of male and female lawyers. I have another body of work through my company, Eyes Wide Open, and there we teach people how to build their lives and incomes awake and aware and with their eyes wide open around new economy, personal finance, and legal, empowerment, really. For whatever reason over there, it's much more women.
So the last question that we ask everybody on our proof stage is, in 3 words, what is your meaning of life?
Eyes wide open.
Can you explain that?
Yeah, I came here to wake up. Came into this body, into this form to wake up, to live my life with my eyes wide open. And that permeates every area of life, from parenting to relationship to money to business to work. And, as I was going through my own spiritual journey, I realized that I chose to be born into the body of a householder, a mom, a businesswoman, not into the body of somebody who could go, live on a mountain and meditate all day long. And so if I was going to achieve awakening, whatever that meant, and I had to really, what is this thing called awakening? I know I want it. I want it really bad, but what is it? And I don't even know why I wanted it, but I wanted it. But what is it? And I've asked that a lot. What is this thing called awakening? And what I've come to is that it means to live in full truth. And to live in full truth means to live with eyes wide open, where I'm actually seeing what's true. No longer being motivated by the false conditioning that can keep us trapped. And in a way, it's interesting, how I've used rejection as a motivator in my own life. And I can actually see now from here that too is false conditioning. So I've actually struggled with that a little bit as I'm here to do a talk on rejection and the power of rejection as a motivator. But what I see is that there's stages to our awakening, and in my experience at least, maybe it's different for others, I have not been able to skip ahead. I can't bypass a stage. And so ultimately, for me, awakening is getting to the truth of knowing I am a creator. I am the creator of my reality. And for example, once I was able to turn to embrace rejection as a motivator, now I don't need to keep using rejection as a motivator. Now I can start to see and create from true desire But for me, part of the awakening process, part of living life eyes wide open, is to turn to the truth. And the truth is that rejection was hiding a lot of what I really wanted, a lot of what I really wanted to create. And so, eyes wide open is continuously finding what's actually true, turning towards it more and more and more and more, and awakening to the truth of how we can create the more beautiful world that our hearts know is possible together.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
Well, Ali, thank you so much for being on our stage.
Thanks. Thank you for having me.
So, rejection.